And welcome to part 3 of the employee headcount series. And in this one, I'm going to show you how I data modeled the headcount utilizing the general ledger unit accounts. And this is going to be applicable to anything in unit accounts, doesn't matter what it is. So you can see I have the window from my GP pulled up for unit accounts. This is the unit account maintenance where we set up our unit accounts. And I'll go ahead and do a lookup here. And you can see I have quite a few. Some of them are square footage, some are employee counts, and some of them are actually fixed asset counts. So I'm going to go back to one of the employee ones. The employee, oops, that's square footage. Wrong one. Let's pull it up again. Employee count cells. There we go. When you're utilizing a unit account, you could decide whether to use the balance or the net change. So if I key in the number of employees every single month, then I'm going to look at the net change. If I'm going to look at the period balance, I'm only going to enter the changes in. So I hired one employee, so I'm going to debit one. If one employee is terminated, then I credit one. And that's how that would work. Now, the cool thing about this is you can set decimal places. So you can have half an employee or show when somebody is split among departments. That's pretty easily done. Let's actually take a look at that now. So here's a great example of that. So you can see here in period 3, there's 5.5 employees. That means somebody is either split or perhaps have a part-time employee. You could also decide whether or not you want to clear your balances during the year. All right, so that's how these are set up. You'll also notice that we can include budgets on them, so we could do budgeting as well. That's another benefit. But the reason why my suggestion in the GPUG forum post from the part number 1 of this blog series was to use unit accounts, even though it does require an extra journal entry each month, is that you could then use them on the financial statements. So we could see based on the average number of employees, what is our net profit? And even by department, for this department, what is the average net profit for this department for the number of employees in this department? So there's some advantage to being able to use that aside from being able to track when somebody are counting someone as a half number or half employee when they're split among departments or they're part-time. Okay, so let's go ahead and connect to our data. So once again, I'm going to get my data and go to SQL Server. Again, if you do not know the name of your SQL Server, then you should consult your partner or your IT person because you will need access to the data directly in SQL. It is secure, so keep that in mind. And once again, I recommend using views, and views are going to have typically where the name makes sense. If your IT department or your partner has created views for you, a lot of times, good naming policy, they'll either write the word view and underscore in the name of the view or something else so that you know, oh, if it's by a partner, it's going to have this name in front of it. You can just type that. I'm going to select the account summary because I want to see what the balance is and the net change for each of these account numbers or these unit accounts that I have. So I'm going to look at the account summary, and this should have all the information I want in it. It should tell me what type of account it is, and it does because I want to exclude posting and I only want to get the unit accounts. So I'm going to go ahead and select that one and choose edit. Here's my query editor for the account summary window. This one has 40 columns, and I do not need, nor do I want 40 columns. There's only a few columns actually that I want and I need. So let's go through Belinda's first 3 steps of doing data modeling. The first one is you want to come in and name the query something that makes sense. Now, account summary may be something that makes sense, but if I'm building this query out very specifically to look at employee headcount, perhaps I want to call this departmental employee count, right? And that's something that makes sense. Or maybe I want to call it unit accounts or something like that. And the second rule is getting rid of excess columns because I do not need 40 columns. So I'm going to click on the choose column icon. And rather than unselecting 30 something, I'm going to unselect all and just add what I want to see. Now I need to have the year and the period because I need to be very specific as to what net time period I'm looking at. I obviously need the account number. I might as well go ahead and grab the account description just for reference. And I'm going to grab the debit and the credit. Great. And because I want to look at the net change between those. I'm going to make my life easier, and I'm going to grab the main segment just to make my life a little bit easier. I also want the department. Oh, I think it's just going to be called segment 1 of my chart of accounts. All right, so that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So now I've narrowed it down from 40 to 8 columns, and that's certainly much more manageable. Now, Belinda's third rule is setting the data type for all of these. And in this case, you can see the period ID is set as a number. I do not want that to be a number. Actually, everything but the debit and credit should be text. So I'm going to highlight everything, and I'm going to come up and make, whoops, let me get rid of these two. And I'm going to make all of the others text. And then these two, I'm going to go through and verify that those are decimal places. So now I'm in good shape. So I have my year, my period, my account number, the full description. Actually, since I obtained the main segment here and the departmental segment here, oh, I forgot the account type. So let's come back in and grab the account type. That's important. So let's put the account type in. And now that I have the account type, I normally would go through and change the type there, but I'm not going to do that because I only want to extract the unit accounts. So I'm going to come in and I could load more. And now there's my unit accounts. So I'm going to undo the posting. Now, if I can't see them, if I have too many that even load more doesn't show it, if I go to the text filter, I could easily say does not equal the posting account, or I can come in and choose posting account. The account type will always be in GP, posting or unit, nothing else, because the other two kinds of accounts we have in GP are allocation accounts, and nothing actually gets posted to allocation accounts. They're just used to redisperse to either posting or unit account. So it's always going to be one or the other. All right, so, oops, and I just did that wrong. So let's go back in. That should say does not equal posting accounts. And now I can see my unit accounts. Now, actually, I didn't end up needing my account number here. So, and I probably don't even need my description. So I'm going to remove those. And the reason why I always say remove more columns than you think you need. If I come back in and I try to remove those now, I'm going to end up with an error message. So because I've changed the type in it. So when I get to the bottom, I would end up with an error message. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those, because these have all these two columns have all the information that I need. So there's my main segment and my other segment. Now, I do know 90/20 is my natural account for employee count. So I'm going to go ahead and just select the 90/20 account. So now I'm just looking at the period change for all the 90/20 accounts. So that's pretty easily done. So now I can get rid of this main segment because it's no longer necessary. Now I have my departmental segment right here, segment 1, and I don't need the unit account segment anymore either. So now I have the year, the period, debit, credit, and segment 1. Now, before we go through and get the net of these, let's go through and give these department names something that makes sense to us. If you want to do a relationship with another query that's accessing the department in the payroll module, you might want that to be representative or use the exact same fields, because in payroll, we don't use 100. We actually use a departmental name. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So what I'm going to do is come in and choose Add Column. And I'm going to choose a conditional column. So this will be a little bit easier for me. All right, so what I'm going to do, and let me come in and actually before I do that, let me make it easier on myself. I'm going to sort by period 1, which is not something that you have to do. So I'm going to call this department. And now I'm going to say in the column name segment 1, if it equals, so I'm actually going to key in the value. If it equals 100, then the name should be, and I'm going to key in the value here as well, it should be admin. And I'll add another rule. So I could go ahead and do the whole operator for everything. It's kind of like a nested if statement, if you will. Now, there are 6 departments, but I don't need to enter in the 6th rule. I could easily just come in and say otherwise and add that rule in, but it'd probably be a good idea if I did add the 6 in. The 6th department then would end up being the PCRC department, and maybe in the otherwise I'll write unknown. And then that way, if a department gets added, I'll know right away that I need to come in and make some edits to my data model. And that did not turn out right. Oh, it could be. It is. I have blank spaces at the end. So if I come in and highlight that, you can see there's blank spaces. So what I'm going to do before I come into the additional column, that was a happy accident, to quote Bob Ross, because now I can show you something cool. So what I'm going to do is come up to transform. And again, this is a text column. I'm going to come in under format and trim that. And I'm going to insert that step. And so now when I come back, my departments are set because I got rid of the extra space at the end. It's a good rule of thumb to always do that. So now that we have that done, you can see now it's like, oh, I don't know what this is going to be. It could be anything, a number, it could be text. So again, I'm going to want to come in and I'm going to want to change that to a text. And now I can get rid of segment number 1. And now the last thing that we need to do is we need to come in and get the net change here. So I'm going to go ahead and add a column. This is the only one of the only 2 times I recommend adding a custom column. When adding a custom column, I'm going to call this employee count in GL. Simple math or text. And text is if you wanted to maybe do this with multiple companies and you append them together. If you wanted this to be company A, you could come in and type in, this is company A in strings, and that way you have a field which has the company name in it. I do not want to do that now. So simple text or simple math. And this is just simple math. And simple math would be debit minus credit. And you do not need the spaces. I just put those in so it's easier to read. I have no syntax errors. I click OK. There's my employee count. Once again, the data type is unknown. So this time I'm going to right mouse click, change the data type to decimal place. And now I can get rid of my debit and credit column. And so now I have my year, my period ID, my department, and my employee count. And I could merge these together if I wanted to, so that I could just use them in maybe as a single filter or what have you. So I'm going to leave them separate for now. And I'm going to come in and close and load. And now I have my 4 simple columns here. I have my employee count, which is a numerical field, my department, and my year. So the first thing I'm going to do is just drag out the department, which will bring me to this text area. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and make this a matrix. Then I'm going to add in the year, and I'm going to add the period there. And so now I've got all those set. I'm going to click on this expand all so I could see everything. Drill down. And then now that I have that done, I'm going to take my employee count and drag it into the values. And if I wanted to, I could even take the put the periods across the columns. That's a cool way of doing it. So now for each, get rid of the year. There. So for each department, let me put the year. You might want to put the filter in so that you're only looking at the year you're interested in. So I could see for each department an employee count. In this particular case, I want to get rid of the totals because I do not need those. So I'm going to come in and tell it to, I want to keep the grand totals, but I want to turn off the row subtotals. Actually, I want to leave on the column subtotals. I want to get rid of the grand total. So the row subtotals are off. There we go. Oh, that looks right. Okay, I was moving around. I got rid of more than I intended, but that's okay. So you can see I have all of my departments and I'm looking month by month across and I can see the count. Actually, I do want to put that back. Yeah, this is the only number here I don't really care to see, but that's okay. But this gives you an idea of how you could utilize some of these features. In this case, you might want to change it to look at the balance. If you look at the balance, you would do things a little bit differently in the data model. But that's how I got this information. Pretty simple, easy to do. I didn't actually use the column formats before. Put the period in the columns. I actually put the periods this way and spread it out like that. clicking on the little U there or the little N, and that's how I actually got it earlier. So one of the things about using the unit accounts that's really powerful is that you can utilize percentages, so you can have employees split among time, and they'll count still as one full employee in the grand total. So that's nice. And you could include part-time employees as half people if you wanted to. Stay tuned for part number 4, where I do this utilizing the payroll transaction. Sorry this one was so long, but I hope it helps.